We're back. We're live, and I. Someone said something in a forum I'm in very recently, um, and it was a complex way of asking, how do you overcome imposter syndrome? Now, I realize I can be a little forward. I come across as confident, even though behind the scenes, it's not necessarily all always the case. So here's what I wanted to say. I'm going to share it here. I was cautious not to do it there, and I'm going to explain why, because I want to break it down a little bit. But here's my thought. One does not overcome imposter syndrome. That ship sailed the moment you avoid being a complete narcissist. Look, in time, that I know this is true, that in time, with enough repetition, patterns emerge, and our reptilian brains trust patterns. We love patterns. It's inside us. And confidence comes from trusting the patterns that we've experienced, and that generate the ones that generate predictable outcomes. Let me say it that way. So those outcomes, they're receipts, and receipts are proof. And once we can prove it, what others think really ceases to matter at all. So imposter syndrome to me is more like fuel. It's the person in the back of your mind that says you can't do it. Whoever told you that as a kid is probably wrong and probably a jerk. But this is our opportunity to prove them wrong, to show our receipts. So when we say show our receipts, I want to caveat that. What I mean is not just externally. We all do that. But show them to yourself. That's what I try to do. So I looked back through my videos, and I've done just over 100 of these videos now. And I thought I had covered imposter syndrome, but maybe I hadn't covered it specifically. I've mentioned it and talked about it, but I haven't sat here and just said what I think about it, period. Not that you necessarily need to care. I'm not even sure. I often feel like what I have to say about a subject doesn't necessarily matter. And that is itself a form of imposter syndrome. So I like to think of it this way. It's a signal, right? There's always a tension, but imposter syndrome continues to hang around because you care. You care not just what others think. You care about what you think. And having a lack of confidence in what we're putting out in the world because we're not delusional is because we haven't stepped over into the land of being like assuming that we have some sort of magical genius. And we often feel negative or say negative things about imposter syndrome, like it's a disease, when it's not something that needs to be cured. It's like our warning system. It's designed to keep us honest. And until we have the patterns to prove otherwise, it may be difficult to put something out in the world because of it. But and I have said this on this channel before, there's different ways of saying this. I like to say, you're stitching your parachute on the way down. Another one is to say that, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's willing to build something that requires some amount of risk, you can't avoid jumping just because you don't see the net. It's down there somewhere. Jump. And I started realizing this deeply personally when, not just because I've shipped 100 of these that I have the confidence to come on here and just say whatever the hell I want to say, but, every project I do, every Squarespace site we build comes with some amount of anxiety, like, geez, I hope we can stick the landing on this one. Or, geez, I hope I really understand their offer or their product or their brand voice. Because the other person on the other side of the video call is different than I am. And they have different ways of communicating, different ways of providing feedback, both verbally and maybe with body language. And some people you really feel like you have a connection with. And then over the course of a project, you feel, well, maybe that wasn't the case as much as I thought. And other people, you feel like, oh, I absolutely am not connecting with this person. I have no idea what I'm going to do to please them. I've done this enough times. I think I can. I'm going to dig in and go for it. And then you get no feedback. They love everything. Like it runs the gamut. It's so variable that honestly, that anxiety is the cost of leading, not just with love and stepping out of your ego, but it is having the receipts. Like I said, this is a matter of saying, I've done this enough times to know that I think I know how to explain it to this type of person, and I know how to solve their business challenge when it comes to, well, specifically websites, because that's what we do, but in general. So sometimes we take it for granted, even with simple relationships, not that relationships are simple, but even with routine relationships that we might even take advantage of or in subtle ways because we're really close to someone, whether it's a significant other or a family member or a close friend. It's easy to assume that you know what someone is going to think about something because you've gotten their thoughts on lots of things many times. Those are receipts. It's the same thing with work. Once you've done a certain amount of work, you kind of start to understand what someone, and based on the business they run or what they do and their role in that company, what they're going to think about and what kind of the work you do, and then the feedback you can expect to get. And all of that absolutely tracks, right? So it makes me think of, I've done a lot of work with big name brands the last 30 years. And I've built like logo walls before with like 20 logos on it or something. And it didn't seem like that much. Like I had been there the whole time, and I was there as they started to stack up, and it didn't feel like it was that awesome. But then one day, this is about a year ago, on my personal website, WaynePelletier.com, I built this logo scroll, this wall of logos, and I just put it like too wide, and you just keep scrolling. And it just keeps scrolling. And it was completely obnoxious to scroll past. And I was going to kill it. And then I thought, wait, that was a lot for me to look at. And I was there. That's going to be a lot for anybody to look at. Maybe being obnoxious with the amount of work I've done is actually the point. So I left it. It's still there. You can scroll through that obnoxiously long logo scroll yourself if you want. Not that you should. I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying, reflecting back and showing one's self the receipts is actually the pattern that will help us move past or use imposter syndrome as the fuel to provide others with more accuracy, more confidence, and better work, and give us the information we need to explain a specific outcome and help people see that outcome and feel like that outcome is possible because we're projecting that to them. And that's really where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, with imposter syndrome. So I used to feel incredibly crippling imposter syndrome. I waited way too long to start my company, a decade too long. And now that I've been running it for 5 years, I feel stupid. I should have done it a long time ago. And that was imposter syndrome. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I've never done it before. I lack whatever insert experience. Like, none of those things are true. And now that I know that, I want to share that because there are a lot of people, and this person that posted in that forum is one of them, that hasn't been working in this space very long. And they do feel strong imposter syndrome when it comes to their pricing and the value they provide. And look, pricing is hard. I've talked about that on here. But the thing I want to drive home is that it's actually the fuel. It's the fire to help us work harder, get more done, be more accurate, lead with love. So I used to despise imposter syndrome, big feelings about it. And now I kind of like it. Now I kind of love it. Now I kind of need it. I am ready to share the chip on my shoulder and say, I'll prove you wrong. You think I can't do something? I'm going to fix your wagon. I know I'm full of cliches today, but that's what I wanted to chat about here. I want to share my most important thing. I think I skipped this last week. In launching the Wow and Flutter program, it's live. You can go to resonantpixel.co/wow. Not that you need to, but the idea being having a membership and setting up the applications to help manage that and setting up. I haven't written all of the onboarding emails, that whole trigger series. I've built it, but I haven't written all of them. Some of them are still like the stock messages. So that is certainly something that I wanted to get done this week. I have not gotten done this week. So that would be a failure. #fail. But I'm inspired by my friend Olga, who has another channel. I'm going to link to it in the description below. She's awesome. Talking about the expenses and business expenses specifically, in that all these software subscriptions that we have are like ballooning. So I ran a quick spreadsheet. I put a quick spreadsheet together and realized that, I have seen that. And there's so much redundancy in those subscriptions. And it's running upwards of $8,500 a year for all of these apps. And that's not good. That's not a revenue percentage that I'm comfortable parting with for the applications. Now, look, you can't quit QuickBooks if your accountant really wants you to be in QuickBooks. So that's $800 a year I have to eat. But some things, like some design apps and social media apps and other sort of project and collaboration apps, could those be all consolidated into one thing? Yeah, probably. And video, like I'm paying for a few video apps here. I'm in Ecamm Live right now. Love it. Heart you guys. And editing apps, there's Descript and Canva and a bunch of these things that honestly, there's a ton of redundancy there. So I'm looking at killing some of that stuff off in 2026. And I think that's going to be a good opportunity to save a few grand for the business. So this holiday season is a good opportunity. And I'm starting that in November because I know it can take a few weeks to kind of go in and get through all of that and get all of those done for mid-December. And then things really quiet down in mid-December. So that's really why I wanted to get started on that now. So that's my most important thing next week. That's the thing I want to do is I'd make some adjustments to both processes and operations in order to accommodate some of this change, because it doesn't happen easily. Like I've got to communicate it out to team and clients and update the operations and make sure that that flow is still going to, work great. So there we have it. So thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, especially the imposter syndrome stuff, please subscribe for more. You never know what I'm going to get on this live call I do every Friday. It's a box of chocolates. And leave a comment down below if you've got a blocker with any of that stuff, or if, you can call me out, whatever. Leave a comment below, and subscribe. I really appreciate you going 14 and a half minutes into this. I will see you next Friday. And you know what? Check out some of these how-to videos. I've put out a dozen of them in the last couple of weeks, and I'm liking them. I'm really liking them. Who knew? Who knew I would enjoy that so much? All right, listen, have a great weekend. Go get it next week, and I will see you back here next Friday.